It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the headlines. The two Koreas had a bit of a tug of war at first, but finally agreed on an amount for South Korean companies to pay to use the land in the joint industrial complex north of the border in Kaesong. South Korea will cut the number of rate-setting meetings it has every year to 8 starting in 2017. The decision by the nation's central bank is aimed at enhancing the validity of its monetary policies and decreasing the volatility in the market. South Korea's baseball superstar Kim Hyun-soo of the Doosan Bears joins the list of players chosen to take their game up to the next level. Clear evidence that the MLB is constantly scanning the KBO for promising new additions. The two Koreas have reached an agreement on how much rent South Korean companies operating in the inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex must pay North Korea for using the land there. Our Connie Kim starts us off.
South Korean companies operating in the inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex will have to pay 64 cents per square meter every year for the land they use there. That was the agreement reached on Thursday by the two Koreas after more than a year of negotiations. The 123 South Korean firms operating in the complex have been exempt from paying rent until this year, based on a 2004 agreement that allowed the South to use the land rent-free for a decade. Under the new agreement, the land use fee will be due once a year by December 20th, though this first payment won't be due until February 20th, 2016. As the deal wasn't reached until after that date. The fee was set based on the special nature of the joint industrial complex and the burden on the South Korean companies operating there. It can be renegotiated every 4 years, but new fees cannot be more than 20% higher than the one preceding it. North Korea had initially demanded the South Korean firms pay 80 cents per square meter for the land that was to be developed under the 2004 agreement. But Seoul insisted on paying half of that, or 40 cents, for only the land they're actually using. That means only about a quarter of the land in the industrial park is subject to rental fees. South Korea's Kaesong Industrial District Management Committee sees the new arrangement as appropriate, but emphasized that there is a need for stronger policies to support operations at the complex. Seoul's Unification Ministry sees the agreement as meaningful in that the two sides cooperated to work it out and hopes to see any remaining issues with the complex resolved just as amicably in the future. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
South Korea's central bank looks to reduce interest rate meetings from 2017 on, falling in line with counterparts in advanced countries. A move that could provide more time for assessing the mid to long-term impact of its monetary policy decisions. Kim Min-ji looks into that decision.
The Bank of Korea will cut the number of rate-setting meetings to 8 per year starting in 2017 from the current 12. The central bank says the change is part of efforts to boost the validity of its monetary policies. BOK Governor Lee Ju-yeol has previously said that central banks in major advanced countries are reducing the number of their meetings, so the monetary policies are based on long-term goals and outlooks on future conditions. Advanced countries, including the U.S., hold rate-setting meetings once every 6 weeks or so. That translates into about twice every quarter, or 8 a year. The top central banker said Korea is more subject to volatility if meetings are held every month, as the market is sensitive to monthly indicators. Instead, 4 economic review sessions will be added, but emergency rate-setting meetings can be held in the event of rapid changes in the economy. For the near future, the central bank says it will continue its loose monetary policy into the new year, as the country is expected to face ongoing uncertainties despite forecasts for a continued modest recovery. The bank pointed to the country's ballooning household debt and capital outflow as potential risk factors. Inflation is expected to rise, but the upward pressure will not be too significant. The central bank added that it will keep a close eye on the markets and continue to pursue stability. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea's public sector debt rose some 6.5% on year in 2014, standing at slightly over $815 billion. According to the Finance Ministry Thursday, the debt of the so-called D3 accounted for 64.5% of the country's gross domestic product. D3 debt includes general and local government debts and those from non-financial public corporations. The ministry says while the figure rose, public debt increased at a slower pace than the previous year due to strong governmental measures. It also noted that compared to other OECD countries, Korea's D3 debt to GDP was the second lowest after Mexico. Consumer sentiment in Korea dipped for the first time in 6 months. The Bank of Korea says its composite consumer sentiment index came to 103 in December, down 3 points from the previous month. Despite the dip, a reading above 100 indicates that optimists outnumber pessimists. The figure had been on an upward trend after a dramatic dip in June when the MERS outbreak was at its peak in Korea. The central bank says this month's drop comes on the back of concerns about what impact the U.S. rate hike could have on the Korean economy, as the survey was carried out just before the Fed's announcement. Because of that, analysts say it's too early to tell whether consumer sentiment will keep going down or whether it's just a blip. Last week, the Federal Reserve raised rates by 0.25 percentage point, lifting it into the range of 0.25 to 0.5%. A new report shows Korea's exports in the parts and materials sector will take a serious hit if the country fails to join the multinational trade agreement known as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP. It says Korea's growing dependence on the global value chain in these industries makes the nation's involvement in the TPP more important than ever. Park Ji-won tells us more.
Over 13 billion US dollars. That's how much Korea will face in losses in its parts and materials sector in the 10 years after the Trans-Pacific Partnership takes effect, should it fail to join. According to the Korea Economic Research Institute, Korea's growing dependence on the global value chain in such industries will result in an over $11 billion decline in its value-added trade with the U.S. and almost $2 billion with Japan. The figure is equivalent to nearly 20% of the export volume of the materials and parts industry within the TPP. Analysts say if Korea fails to join, it will not be able to take advantage of the massive global network formed in the Asia-Pacific region, which will have a direct and indirect impact on the country's exports in the sector. Although Korea has separate free trade deals with 10 of the 12 TPP member countries, the group has agreed to seek a common set of rules of origin to determine whether a product originates in the TPP region, so Korea will lose its competitiveness. The think tank says the government should step up efforts to quickly join the TPP in order for local companies to boost their business and competitiveness as well as increase their investment and exports. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The emissions rigging device that was found in Volkswagen diesel vehicles also affected fuel efficiency. Kwon Jang-ho brings us the latest from Korea's Transport Ministry, which has been investigating the data from previous tests that had confirmed the existence of the device in cars sold in the country.
Last month, Korea's Ministry of Environment released the results of its investigation into Volkswagen diesel engines and confirmed that there was evidence that their emissions data had been manipulated. The German auto giant was fined $12 million and a recall of 125,000 vehicles is set to begin next year. Although the ministry said the investigation is ongoing, its initial data was handed over to the Transport Ministry, which has been carrying out its own investigation into whether the defeat device that allowed the cars to cheat emissions test results also affected fuel efficiency. An official from the ministry said Thursday that initial analysis of the data shows that there is a correlation. The Transport Ministry will start its own testing on the cars to confirm the discovery in the new year. But the scandal does not seem to have had a huge impact on Volkswagen sales in Korea. The Tiguan, which was one of the models revealed to have the emissions cheating device, is on course to becoming Korea's best-selling import car for 2 years running. Over 8,200 units have been sold through November this year. That's far more than the next best-selling model, the Audi A6, of which just over 6,300 units have been sold. Sales of Volkswagen cars were also boosted in November by aggressive sales discounts and marketing by Volkswagen Korea to counteract the damage the scandal has inflicted on the brand's reputation. The actions proved to be effective, with Volkswagen becoming the best-selling import car for November, after seeing a big dip in sales the previous month. However, it remains to be seen whether Volkswagen will be able to maintain its sales numbers once the promotions stop and recalls begin next year. Kwon Sang-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea's frontline troops received a surprise visit from a very special guest on Christmas Eve. President Park Geun-hye traveled to Yeongcheon, Gyeonggi-do Province to offer encouragement to the servicemen of the 28th Infantry Division. She called on the military to maintain its full readiness against North Korean provocations and thanked the soldiers who are devoted to protecting the country and its people for their dedication and patriotism. The president added the peaceful reunification of the two Koreas is near and that the channel for dialogue is always open to Pyongyang. This is her second visit to a frontline unit since the first one back in December 2013. A lot of shop owners in Korea apparently avoid playing Christmas music because they believe they have to pay copyright fees. Well, the Korean government is trying to make it clear that copyright is no longer an issue. Our Won Ji-yeon looks into this problem.
Christmas time is here, but in Korea, it's unlikely you'll hear any holiday tunes outside your home.
It makes me sad to not hear any Christmas carols on the streets.
I wish there were more Christmas songs playing outside, so it would feel more like Christmas.
So what happened to all the Christmas songs? Store owners in Korea are worried about having to pay expensive copyright fees based on a law revised in 2009. But the government tweaked the law this year, and authorities are trying to spread the word. Korea's Culture Ministry and 4 copyright organizations recently announced that small and mid-sized stores can play Christmas songs for free.
Small-sized businesses like local cafes, bakeries, and restaurants can play any songs without having to pay any copyright fees. But many store owners tend to be misinformed about this part of the law.
Despite the ministry's efforts, experts say it could still be a while until Christmas songs fill the streets of Seoul. By law, stores are required to keep their front doors closed at all times to save energy, and they're barred from playing loud music on speakers outside. Experts say the government should provide an exception over the holidays to spread the holiday cheer. Won Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Well, it looks like we're not going to have a white Christmas this year in Korea. Those heading outdoors during the Christmas holiday might want to wear a face mask as a precautionary measure against rising fine dust levels in many parts of the Korean peninsula. Our Kim Ji-yeon has this report.
Air quality levels deteriorated in most parts of the country, including the capital region Thursday, as fine dust levels rose. The National Institute of Environmental Research says concentration of fine dust was around 100 micrometers. Concentration of fine dust over 80 micrometers is considered as bad, while levels over 150 micrometers fall into the category of very bad. Levels of 400 micrometers of fine dust may impede automobile drivers to see clearly. Air quality in the Korean peninsula usually deteriorates at the end of every year when smog from China moves down towards the peninsula. However, the institute says air conditions this year on average have improved compared to those of last year, largely due to a climate cycle in the Pacific Ocean called El Niño. The amount of fine particles from China has decreased as winds have been heading north or east of China instead of their usual northwesterly trajectory, which points at the Korean peninsula.
The air quality levels this year are better than last year's due to the large amount of rain we've received this year, clearing fine dust away quickly. The El Niño phenomenon, which has raised global temperatures, has contributed in the abundant precipitation, while lowering chances of snow.
The institute forecasts strong winds could help clear up conditions by Christmas Day on Friday. Until then, it advised the public to refrain from outdoor activities, particularly patients with respiratory problems, children, and the elderly, and to wear a face mask if going outside can't be avoided. It's also advised to wash one's face, especially the nose, frequently when coming back indoors. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Turning our eyes to the world of sports, Kim Hyun-soo joins the Baltimore Orioles. He joins the list of many Korean baseball stars making that big transition to the MLB. But more importantly, he becomes the first to cross over as a free agent. Lee Ji-won looks into why scouts from the league every player dreams of joining looks to Korea and his relatively smaller pro baseball league for diamonds in the rough.
Korea's hitting machine Kim Hyun-soo has put pen to paper on his 2-year contract with the Orioles and is all set to go. He's the third Korean player to go stateside this year and will be one of 5 Korean players in the MLB next year. Ryu Hyun-jin was the first Korean player to ever join a MLB team through posting. In December 2012, Ryu was signed to a 6-year, $36 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Kang Jong-ho was next, signing a 4-year contract worth $11 million with the Pittsburgh Pirates at the beginning of 2015. And Park Byung-ho joined the Minnesota Twins earlier this month on a 4-year deal worth $12 million. The famous choo-choo train Chu Shin-soo of the Texas Rangers joined the team from the minor leagues. Experts say there are a number of reasons why more Korean players have been scouted by MLB teams in recent years.
The Korean Baseball League is now more widely recognized around the world. Korea's national team also had some good results in international competitions such as the Olympics, the World Baseball Classic, and the recent Premier 12.
With MLB teams scouting the KBO players significantly more this season, and considering the success of Korean players abroad, experts predict that more will join the big leagues in the near future.
MLB teams are always hungry for good players, so they will continue to search for gems like Ryu Hyun-jin and Kang Jong-ho. Also, it's natural for any sportsman to dream of playing in the big leagues, not just for the huge money and respect they get, but also it's because where the best players play.
Experts say that now is the time for Korea's best baseball players to show the world what they've got on the biggest stage of them all. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
That's all from us for now. Thank you for watching.